In the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful, and in honor of the original moment to this world room and system, this evening I will be sharing one of the most important lectures of my life, and it is finding me with the intensity and the rhythm of a discovery. I am going to prove the soul in a certain way. And I do not mind if you believe reality is just physical, or if it's subjective, or if it's something else. I don't mind. And so this lecture is not just important for me, but it is important to show in the presence of the system admin of this existential system and all the higher planes and the true audience of mankind, whatever intelligence has noticed us here. As a member of the human species, I do not speak for all of the human species, but I speak for the human design, as the human design. And so humanity is the extension of the individual back into their origin. This lecture is an uncommon one. And I am giving this, believe it or not, this lecture specifically, it's I'm gonna give it with the comfort as if I do not mind if there's even negative viewers for this lecture. This lecture has a personal value for me. So, to speak to the world, ladies and gentlemen, as a member of the human species and as an observer of this system for 12,500 days, even more, it has come to my attention that this game, this human game of life, is being played in many ways. But after 11,500 days, you start noticing patterns. Liars are only possible like for a certain time, and then the lies break, and you will realize this world is not designed to destroy us. This world is designed to bring out the potential in moments. Now, the proof of the soul. The subtitle was long, but I will do what I first wrote. The proof of the soul is that the brain can't tell the difference between objects and subjects. And I am here today making one of the most profound observations. And if you're wondering how I was that silent, shy, introverted observer of the realm from the beginning till now. And so in some sense, I am telling you, I have noticed this, and it's going to fascinate you when you realize it. There are 2 points, there are 2 views in this lecture. One is, what is the proof of the soul? I got to take some time and explain that to you, what that could mean. And the other is for me to explain to you how our brains, I have to up can't tell the difference between objects and subjects, and why that is a proof of the soul. Okay? I will guarantee you, you in your lifetime, even in history, if you were alive, if you were a time traveler, you have heard no lecture like this. I am telling you, you know, because the condition the species is, when I see the status quo, do you know what leadership means? When you look at what's leading mankind, people think it's the leaders that lead them. No, it's where your attention is. And the most important thing in life is, in some sense, people will realize it as they get older, is time. And it is the quality of experience you have during your run of this realm. Do you know? And in the inner realms, I have speed run this. I'm not even joking, folks. I have speed run this system. I have looked at it from dehumanized angles even. But that was not of just my own will. That means it wasn't enforced, but it was just, how do I say it, you know? When you remember yourself as a presence of the world, you access realities that personalities born in just a tiny corner, tiny moment of in the film of life can't in some sense fulfill. Do you understand? That means we are, think of it this way. I'll say it to the secular, because you guys get scared quick. Do you know? I'll say it to the secular audiences, you know, those of the weakest, not the weakest heart, but, you know, I get it. You guys get scared. But it's fine, because you're going to see your fears are meaningless. We have to realize that, you know, the species is no longer a child to be afraid of the darkness of its own being. Okay? The darkness doesn't mean evil. It means we don't know what's there. And when you realize this, you realize good and evil are a distraction from the main world that's happening here. Do you understand? Like, how would you feel like, okay, if you paid to go see a concert, okay, and you were facing the wrong way the whole concert? You would feel as if you missed it. And so my task is not to come and educate anyone. It's not even possible. I have no clue what sort of being you are beyond your eyes. But all I can tell you is that we find ourselves in front of our eyes in the same physical public server. And who you are listening to, okay, is in some sense that quiet kid, okay, who noticed what's coming, okay, and what's going on, and it's hilarious, okay? That means I thought ontology was some next level fascinating truth. Oh my God, is it going to be equivalent to feeling like what it would feel like to dissolve into like pure light? It's like, no, man, no, it's deeper than that. And I was like, it's deeper than pure light. I'm going to explain to you, okay? And hopefully I have wished for a whiteboard so many times that in the future, probably in Mr. Within's journal Substack, I'm gonna start the whiteboard sessions. Okay. I was born in 1991, and I'm going to speak from a sort of not eagle on the branch, but eagle from the sky viewpoint, in the sense that contextually I'm going to acknowledge this. I was, in 1991, I was born physically. At some point during my upbringing, I become conscious that I'm a physical being, like I exist physically. I also become conscious that I'm an intelligent being because I'm being communicated to, okay? And so it's as if communication raises our minds. And I guess, you know, ladders raise us in the physical realm. I'm trying to tell you that the status quo, and this is, think of this as a briefing to the whole universal sector from a member of the human species. We are living at a time of such emotional confusion that leadership in this era just means to fulfill a role, honestly. I was under the impression that I'm this subject in my head, okay? This named character, and I have a body and I'm in a world. That's how I lived as a subject owning and dragging around an object that it is responsible for. Okay? And then its whole life is like, yo man, this subject of me is trying to figure out what objectively I can do. Do you know what I mean? Like what I'm trying to say. Okay, that wasn't smooth here. I'll say it this way. What the subjective it's like this it's like, you know, it's like our subjective self thinks it's in power. Right now, if somebody asks who are you, you identify with a subject. You're all branded. Our barcode is in letters, yo. It's our name. That means to be a member, to be an individual in a realm, means to, in some sense, specify. So it's, think of it this way. There's natural civilization, which is nature. Okay, and then within this natural ecosystem, I mean, they don't call it civilization, they call it ecosystem. In this natural ecosystem, an unnatural human behavior forged. And it is so funny because human beings consider themselves to be natural, and then they're like, yo bro, why is there the unnatural? Do you know, they don't realize it begins from the moment you're a character in a story. You know, we are all told to be honest, right? This system acts like it appreciates honesty. Like, see, there's, you know, it's so funny, man. One day, guys, I'm just going to tell you this. When you understand that 8.1 billion human beings, their actions are similar to if that 8.1 billion being was one human being. In the same way, I see Christ as a prophet, but I do understand that Christians see as the divine nature. You see, there's different approaches, different beings, different tastes, different styles. Taste is not a good word, but it's different styles. Okay? I'll say it this way. Based on what you accept, you become, not what you think you become. Much like, here, let me prove the soul first. I'm saying this so casually. They're like, this dude's gonna casually explain the soul as if it's common sense, and it is. It is. None of you, all of you are incredible Oscar-winning actors. All physicalists are actors. Matter is an act. Oh, haven't you noticed? But whose act? That's the question. All right. Now to get to the essence of this lecture. All right, folks. First, it's easier for me to explain how the brain can't tell the difference between objects and subjects. For the longest time, human beings have been under the impression that they have been individuals. This individualism, as I explained, it ties down to a sense of self. That sense of self is subjective. So in other words, human beings are these objects in nature that have managed to treat them, convert their their experience of objective existence into a subjective position. So being human is not about you're just human, you're also the technology and the power and the process that is the emergence of the human being. When I say I emerged, do you know what that means? When we say human beings emerged from this realm, that means they didn't teleport. They grew out of this world. Like sometimes, I get scared, not by others, by myself. I scare myself sometimes. Why? Because I fathom if a void context had the potential for such a human being to exist, to wonder about it, what other miracles of manifestation and existential design are out there? In other words, folks, let me make it easy. Let me assist the human species here. This is what Mr. Within is saying. Treat me as a blue jay on a branch that you heard, you know, uh, you know, sing a bird song and then flew by. Do you understand? These moments are I have no idea why I am roaring at the species, and I have no idea why there is a species to hear it. I have no idea why communication is the most advanced strategy in this era of history, but it is. And so, let me tell you something incredible. In this world, you practice, like you traditionally, they're like, yo, man, we got to raise confident, strong kids. That's the mentality. But what they don't tell you is that they are not raising strong kids, and they're not raising strong beings. What they are doing is making certain values more important than the rest. The initial contact is with an unknown world. That means I am speaking in the middle of stardust to other intelligent activities in the realm. We are unknown. The whole place is unknown. It has been a luxury and convenience for us to know ourselves in this way. The chaos behind what life means is way more chaotic than what physically life is. Oh, have you not noticed, mankind, the life you have lived behind your eyes now collectively cannot be avoided? In other words, there needs to be smart strategies. What is this what is this foolish thing of people being like, yeah, go live your life in your freedom? Are we really free? Were we not programmed to be something? Deep down, I ask my heart, if it's like I did this test for myself. I was like, yo, if for the sake of the world, there's a very profound saying. They say, the superhero sacrifices himself, sacrifices you for the world. Do you know the supervillain sacrifices the world for you? Do you know? There's like that sort of imagery. Do you know? And why is it alluring, the evil and chaos? Because it is uncontrolled. And the controlled becomes normalized by the brain. So it is not the fault of all those people being good. You guys are all looking lame. It's not, me included. I have mastered looking lame. Do you know? The moment I realize every value that anything has to start off from zero. And it was like, I was like, okay, I am not a self in a world. That's what the moment saw at first. To me, this is what proved that what is deciding and discriminating, what is noticing duality, is not the brain. The brain is just noticing form, and form is not dualistic to it. And I will explain what I mean by this. Guys, I give a lot of talks, and I have a certain experience of my own inner realms and mind, and I'm a visual learner. What does that mean? That means like I'm seeing a film and I'm turning that into words. But I have done that so many times, it's become second nature at this point. I am saying that in front of our eyes there is an outer realms, behind our eyes there is an inner realms. The human being has an ability to close its eyes and still see. This is proven in dream states, and it is also proven that if I tell you close your eyes and imagine the food you ate yesterday hovering in the air, your mind can do that. Okay? Your mind can access a memory. There is no light beams entering your eyes, but a part of you can see more than what you are physically, with your biological eyes seeing. This is not per se the third eye, but this is the third reality, the inner realms. Now, let me tell you this. That when I've envisioned something, like right now I'm looking at a tree, okay? And this tree in some sense has no leaves on it, nothing. It's just there. And right now I start to visualize a basketball-sized apple hovering right beside the tree, on right above, like let's say a hand's length above, like the tip of the tree, like a giant apple is just spinning. Do you know, like a size of a basketball? Now here's the phenomenal thing. The visualization of the basketball-sized apple is not physical, but it's visual. It's visible. So the brain, the biological eyes, followed the visualization. That means when I visualized a basketball-sized apple above this tree I'm seeing in front of my eyes, do you know that my eyes are looking above the tree? In other words, the biological eyes can't tell the difference between physical, non-physical. Do you understand? It's treating the form, whether if there was an actual basketball-sized apple above the tree, the eyes are treating it like that. That's proof that the brain is not seeing the duality. Something else is experiencing duality. It's not the brain, which is bizarre because they've divided the brain into two hemispheres. And they're assigning the right side of the brain to the left side of the body, left side of the brain to the right side of the body. But that is one strategy. Do you know, think of it this way, there's infinite strategists and there's infinite strategies. The moment you run out of infinite strategies from one strategist, there's infinite strategists. Do you understand? That means when it comes to creativity, I don't know, I've flew in those skies to such a degree where it's so easy. It's either the concept is infinitized or the context. Anytime the concept is limited, you wonder about the freedom of the context. Anytime the context is limited, you wonder about the freedom of the concept. What philosophers have been in history is just observers of what the F is going on. Ever laugh in a way where it sounds like there's tears behind it? The tears behind really this is that I have noticed my limitations. I have noticed the limitations of our species, and I have even noticed the limitations of the future generations to some degree. But it's not that I have noticed it. There is a force in this world superior to human intellect and analysis. It is called living through your presence. Oh, have you not noticed, oh unknown energetic being? That this whole time, just because you have been tasked by the higher order to be responsible for a member of the species. In other words, am I the invisible raging at the visible, or am I the visible raging at the invisible? That means it is like, where is the lion roaring? Because what was the point of being complete alone? You see, it is just this feeling. It is this feeling. I have this bad habit, okay? Which to me, I don't judge it anymore. It's just something I've accepted. Where anytime I see a system, it's like my mind taunts me. It's like there's something taunts me. And it's like, wait a minute, you didn't figure it out by the first sight? And then the moment intensifies. I look at it again. You still did not see it by the second sight. Do you know? The moment still intensifies, and that's where I pause. If I can't see it from this branch, I must fly. The mind, this whole time, okay, is a room. You are right now in a strange room, in a strange place. You think you're humans on Earth. And you are, but that's not just all that you are. It's as if this whole time, do you understand? This whole time in my life, my whole lifetime, I've deceived myself in thinking I've known people. I've known what all of you are, what I am. And it's as if there's a moment in this life that you could be as ignorant, silly, foolish, oblivious, whatever. But there comes a moment in this life where you realize the world outside you is testing the world inside you. The world behind your eyes. And a majority of humans, in order to maintain their individualism, they have to just live in accordance to their own meaning. In other words, when will the species mature to realize we are all unknown beings? Do you know, like the viewers now, I do not expect anyone in 2026 to understand the value of what I'm doing. But the future generations will be like, yo, before we knew there was a war, an invisible war. Someone was speed running the map. In other words, it is what is within. And it is what is within our experience. That means they tell you a story that, yo, you're just this little thing in this gigantic world of existence. At most, you're a statistic or a thought in the background of the mind of the ignorant. There is no teaching. There is no educational system. There is no value to knowledge when the species is under an invisible invasion. Converting the tears of the past into the smiles of the future, into the ultimate command. There's some divinity That means if they, archetypally, let's say we just wrote a fiction story right now, fictional story, and in this fictional story there was a character that had that it was destined to go towards divinity, do you know, and this character was a divine character, and then we had another character in the in this story, do you know, in this fictional story, hypothetical fictional story, where this character had gone towards magic power. Do you understand? And there is a difference between noticing divinity and believing in God. Believing in God is like just looking at the cover. That means the proper way to read a holy book is in some sense as if you are reading ancient code from outside of the world room. And the proper way to read a holy book is to, in some sense, close it slowly, shocked. Not by the divine coordination of events, not by synchronicities sprinkled with personal meaning. It is the emergence of the greater power. So let me tell you what this means. If that divine character in that fictional story were, and suddenly the magical character, the essence of magic, seldom is this said, it is equivalent to control and power. That means you might not believe it, but like a billionaire is like a magician. Do you know? It's as if like, but it's as if what is really underneath the magic is not as advanced as the magic displays itself. That's the flaw of magic. It knows it is of the lower. But let me tell you, it doesn't mean low is bad and high is good. High is good, but in ways that require complete recalibration of noticing presence. They're like, yo, bro, did you get enlightened? It's like, yo, do you mean I wake up every day of like, hiding my chaotic terror and hysteric anguish of in what an unknown and strange me, like in some sense, in what sort of unknown place have I emerged? For how long will this culture's loop seasonally? When will lower beings, lower order processes of the realm realize the way out of this simulation? And if you haven't realized this life is a simulation, you haven't grown up. You haven't noticed it. You're not living in the real earth. They're like they have conditioned. I'm like, yo, man, said like, you know what the craziest thing to realize about this world? Reality was a marketing strategy. The past holds the lion's tongue, but the future has already opened the lion's jaws. People are fighting. You don't understand. I want you to imagine, like, even if we truly acknowledge geopolitics as a sort of imperialist battlefield of in some sense, scared freaking beings, To me, people are like, world leaders are crazy. I'm like, no, they're scared. politics on Earth is just what a bunch of terrified being symbols did. That means people are like Mr. Within. How can you, in some sense, feel sorry and forgive, all those evil, ignorant, disgusting souls that in some sense terrorized humanity? And it's as if I will tell them, let me tell you why. Instantaneously, I can forgive any human archetype that exists in this realm. I don't care even how twisted or whatever you are, but the whole point of it is it's just human archetypes. It's so bizarre being human. It's in just like you got to go to the gym in the same way with the species has to constantly keep this human story going until it realizes its true nature. They're like Mr. Within. Why forgive everybody on Earth? Why forgive even Shaitan? Which is the anti-human moderator, invisible moderator that is messing with us to prove its point to a higher punishment. People have never wondered, like, yo, man, what does a Muslim see when they see, like, Batman, when they see Avengers? Do you know? And do you know what it is? It's as if when Alfred told Bruce Wayne, like, some people just want to see the world burn. That is the sign of a defeated soul. That means people think defeated souls are defeated. No, they transform into wrath. But then they get punished. They get devoured by greater chaos. That means if somebody says, Mr. Within, what is the cost of chaotic action? Chaotic action can be evil. It doesn't matter if you're ignorant or not. If they're like Mr. Within, if somebody, throws a cigarette and it burns a forest, and they didn't even notice that happened, right? Like, is that person to blame? Not is that person to blame? Is that person evil? Is an accident cause something to verify the nature of something? Evil is a verification of nature. Good is a verification of nature. This life is so hilarious. All the good people, I notice more bad things about them, and all the bad people, I notice good things about them. So I'm like, what is this? This is like the dualism of something else. But the whole point of this lecture is for me to tell you, if I imagine something beside a tree and my biological eyes actually treat that visualization as if it's there, this is proof that the body has an intelligence that is limited to interaction with form. What is giving meaning is not from the brain. So meaning is not from the brain. Me knowing how to talk right now, you knowing how to listen right now, just attention somehow intersecting in a realm of so many, in a changing world. What is the point of this? It is about the world where all of it is going. That means a playful talk I might give in the future if I'm reminded, maybe. Playful truth. It's all about an unknown force wondering if it has to be a known thing or if it can just be present. All of you, if you just don't do nothing right now, that's like you being present. It's so hilarious. Teachers in classroom, they shout at the kids and they're like, kid, be present. You know, and the kid's like, I can't be present when you're shouting at me. You know? Ever have this feeling that you wished you had access to the wit you have now, like when you were younger? What is the value? I'm saying the body is not what is activating the meaning of self. So, in other words, I'll explain it from the experiential side. If somebody says Mr. Within, if the whole place is more unknown than known, and you know there's abstract, the brain treats abstraction, the forms of abstraction, and the forms of, let's say, fictional forms and non-fictional forms is the same, right? The brain is just reacting on a form level. The brain's like, buddy, personality is your soul's job. You know, I'm just like just noticing form for you. You know. Dear viewers, now the next question is, I've confirmed to you, this is my proof. My proof is the eyes, example of the eyes I gave you, and how the brain can't tell the difference between a fictional and non-fictional form, and the awareness that can distinguish between the two is not from the brain. So the next question has to be, if it's not from the brain, where is it from? Like, where is it happening from? And I'll answer to you. Now we get to the second side of the episode. The proof of the soul also is based on what does the soul mean. This is not my first proof of the soul. I've shared it in many different talks years ago. Another proof of the soul, I said, it's like kind of going up to it's like a philosopher went up to a scientist, and told that scientist, like, yo, the philosopher was like, yo, have you ever wondered if energy that can't be created or destroyed and just changes from form to form, okay? Is it weird if the energy is alive? Do you know? And that's what the soul is, something that is alive, that cannot die and changes from form to form. Like, you kidding me? That's energy. So it's like energy plus consciousness. It's like energy, it's like, what is soul? And it's like energy with a personality. So pretty much for the modern generations, for the future generations, in honor of you and what you will achieve for this species. And the species, you're not living for some dude's definition. You're living for the great human legacy, the great human odyssey, the one story that we can all agree on, that the legacy of the humanity is worth caring about. Like, we have to care for it as much as we carry it. I believe it was in the Bhagavad Gita where there was a sort of a metaphysical geometry shared in accordance to the soul, and they were like, think of it this way, like a chariot, okay, and the horses are the body, the rider of the chariot is the mind, and what is inside the chariot, okay, is the soul. And you think you're your body, but your body is pulling your mind, which is guiding it, or like escorting it. It's like your mind and body are escorting this unknown soul to a journey beyond time. Like, sure, like, I'm not saying death doesn't exist, but I'm saying, like, what it means is interesting to wonder about. Because what death means is that we are no longer in the same room, you know? And the afterlife is about what happens beyond this room. You know, I have been, it's kind of interesting to look at it this way, that I've been human for 34 years, around 12,600 something days. 12,600 times. And I've like, that's the memory archive. It's like 100% okay to forget, you know, how we were simulated all these days. But the important thing is, I think energy is the focus. And what empowers energy is purpose to the human psychology. Now, the question is, purpose should be based on what? Because one can make an argument of a simulated purpose and an original purpose. If we talk about an original purpose, it means your original presence. Your original presence means the you that you've tried to avoid as an idea of yourself, by being an idea of yourself. But you have to stand and confront and earn your own presence's trust. It's kind of strange to say this. And it's not any subject or object. That means, let's say there are instructors, or let me say it this way. There are people who, like, if in medieval times I would go and become an imperial, like, sword instructor or something, you know what I mean? I would, like, in these modern times, the equivalent of it is, I notice the market, and the market is knowledge is being devoured by entertainment. Logic is being devoured by emotion. And truth is being devoured by information. And you're meant to live a normal human life here. They're like, Mr. Within, you know, spiritual talks mean you got to talk about other dimensions. It's like, we don't know where we are. We don't know where we are. All your opinions stand in the presence of the unknown. There's more unknown variables than known variables. We're just living in the known variables. And the way we're living in the known variables on a civil, if you look at human history, we have been the unnatural deviation from nature, the audacity, that we think we're natural beings when we don't behave like it. And why is it, let me tell you something strange. You know how science was like, they thought it was like evil spirits, but then they realized it was an infection. Do you know what I mean? Or a virus or something. I think in the same way, the archetypes of good and evil are also the emotional representations of them. Because what is going on here can be seen from different rooms in the same moment. Here, I'll give you an example. You ask me, who are you? Right? Imagine you ask me, who are you? Right? But you're asking it in an ontological way. I tell you, I'm this biological organism, just living on planet Earth. Okay? Now, again, if you ask, who are you? Everybody is innocent in the sense that they're just unknown beings experiencing their own existence for the first time. That's like kind of like, that's like, it's the same as childish innocence. Like, we don't know any better. People are they're just putting effort in whatever system they found. I personally, there was a time, now everything has become very calmly unknown. That means the pond was rippled as long as I was being a specific known self. And I realized in my youth, I had understood something so powerful in my very young youth, just by being present in the moment without having opinions on the moment. That true presence is in the unknown. In other words, like, for me, you know what it is? Like, people are like, Mr.Within, why don't you like the New Age community? Is it because you're religious? I'll be like, no. It's because the New Age community noticed the unknown, but still went down the path of just limited to self. Spirituality means you're wondering about how advanced the self can be. Religion means about how advanced the world can be. And what is these religion, all these ideas, what are these? These are just access points to perception. That means, let me tell you what I have envisioned in the future will happen. Right now, people are still, the species is still identifying. Identification can be said to be like solid, liquid, gas state. Okay, solid identification, no, I'm just this, don't bother me. Liquid identification is, okay, I watch the moment and see, like, in the present, what happens. I adapt. Sometimes I think about it this way. My mind creates a parallel universe. Such of this is like I've written of this. And I saw a parallel universe, and I'm like, what if one day some person became the leader of the world, of the outer realms, and was like, everybody has to be a nomad. And everybody was like, this world leader is nuts. What do you mean everybody has to be a nomad? And this world leader was like, no, I am the ruthless bored ruler in history. The great bored ruthless, you know, the most ruthless bored ruler in history, you know? And this bored, ruthless ruler was like, I am bored, and all of you guys are living limited lives, and that's why you're not bored. And in some sense, everybody has to move. Do you know? And anybody who thinks they're a noun, it's like ignorance. And everybody, the species is pushed, and suddenly everybody was like, wait a minute, this ruler came and said everybody has to live like everybody on earth has to be a nomad, right? That means they have to be traveling and walking the surface of the earth every day. And suddenly all the members of the human species became healthy. Suddenly so much trash was picked up from the ground. Suddenly people started connecting with the world rather than being housed. Like, wake up, being one location, go to another location, come back to this location, that's it. You know, it's like, okay, max make it 3 or 4 locations, and that's it, and loop, while the advance every moment is in some sense, and the opportunity cost of it was all that you could have been. It is the advanced humanity. Do you know, if they're like Mr. Within, you talk like with a hidden manic. Let's say, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I understand. You know, like, if people are like Mr. Within, where does your intensity come from? The importance of, like, I'm like this. Think of it this way: we're all souls, and I'm like this soul, and I'm like strategizing. Okay, what should I do here with this existential opportunity to experience this? And a part of me is like, yo, if you're gonna play this game, what kind of soul are you to yourself? That means when my mind managed to fathom who I could be, just saw through a little crevice of just what I could be, the intensity arose. There's a saying, greatness walks among greatness. It sees it when it's being raised. It sees algorithms closer to the original reality in this game of simulations. So in other words, I ask myself, what kind of being do I want to be? Not who I want to be, what do I want to feel like, what do I want the future to look like? I have released the future because long ago I learned the world reacts to selves. I am telling you that not that your whole life has been a lie and the species has diverged from its natural evolution, looping in a subjective, weird value system. I am telling you, we can, as Plato would call it, white lie or noble lie to the future generations and hide the ontology and let them be raised through the freedom of their own creative epistemology, which they should be. But I'm telling you, it's as if after you have a fully developed prefrontal cortex, if the concept should not be, the concept of work should not be attached to a specific view. That means it's as if I called it the great work, actually. That means if they asked you, what are you doing here on earth? And you're like, I don't know, I'm just the soul here. It's like, no, if this time, when they ask you, what are you doing here on earth? And it's like your answer is, I am watching what it is and wondering about what is the most advanced state. That means when I realize two people, let's say this, you know, people when they, like, I'll give you an example. When a philosopher looks at an Avenger, the film Avengers, okay, compared to a teenager, the teenager's like, cool graphics. That audience is being drawn by the graphics. But the philosopher that looks at this show understands, like, wow, look at what archetypal values have been embodied as characters in the context of this storyline, in this context of the world of the storyline. For me, the coolest thought, the coolest view has been that I'm like, okay, before egos destroy us, we destroy the egos. And everybody on planet Earth would be like, Mr. Within, what do you mean? How can we stop the world by destroying egos? And in some sense, I'll tell you, the strategy is this. If they were like Mr. Within, what could everybody on Earth do to prevent, like, global war and disaster and extinction? I will tell you, forget about the apocalypse. That the unseen is in the jurisdiction of a higher power, a higher order process. In regards to what human beings can do in human civilization, your body salutes as the mind, a commanding officer, enters the room. The mind waits. The soul enters the room. Or excuse me, I kind of like ruined that. Okay, I'm pretty much saying this. The soul is the archetype of a soldier. Excuse me. The body is the archetype of a soldier. The mind is the archetype of a commanding officer. The soul is the archetype of a general, and God is the archetype of an emperor. But God, that word points to the unconditional, and no condition can equate it. Remember this always. God is about what is beyond the box of existence. Nothing in existence can equate what is outside of it. That's the whole deal with the human species. We can explain what is in existence, and we can explain qualities of this existence, even from experiencing it from how we're being. It's like, I'm not just experiencing being myself, some introverted, like, deep, like, viewer. It's like, no, I'm right now experiencing how I'm existing as this part of existence. I'm happening as everything is happening. God is the unconditional. This lecture is pretty much the strategy for human beings. Is I said it, we're designed to adapt, but it's pretty much the activation of the soul. So think of it this way: right now, 8.1 billion beings, like, maintain that playful body being a soldier, mind being a commanding officer, soul being a general or something. Right now, it's like the soldiers have rebelled against the commanding officers, and the commanding officers have, in an unethical way, like are forcing the soldiers to be in line, right? And in some sense, both the body, the soldiers, and the commanding officer, have forgotten in whose presence they are. They're in the presence of the general. Do you understand? And the general is not on the battlefield, is in the highest hill, but is the final backup. That means the general is the guardian spirit over the whole, like, army. Do you understand? It's like seeing, it's like protecting the species, protecting the future of the species. Do you understand? That means before the body and the mind fail, the soul will not allow it. And it's not the soul, it's that what the soul is the divine will, actually. In the same way, you're like, yo, man, am I being stardust? In the same moment you're being stardust, you're also being the presence of the moment. That means when you talk enough, when you talk long enough, at some point it's no longer an ego. It is more of realizing the world game, that it's all like hilariously identity based right now. Every person's like, what should I identify with? What sort of value system should I care for? And in reality, you need to realize that meaning is generated from within and filtered by your own experience, but the forms out there are beyond your experience. And they're like, Mr. Within, how can you free, the human species in an unfree world, right? They're like, do you, like a lunatic, try to bring the end of the world? And I'll be like, no, man, that's crazy, right? The solution is not in the outer realms. The solution is in the inner realms. The problem is from the inner realms. That means they're like, so what I'm doing is I'm like, okay, you all disagree because you're all being specific individuals, and you're identifying with not just your body, not just with your memories, your experiences, your subjectivity, your personality, and everything. You're also identifying with a sort of nationalistic context, and that is perfectly fine. But I'm saying, as history goes forth, imagine how long will it take for the human species to realize that it is one species. And for the first time, this is really when the United Species Council emerges, okay, when for the first time human beings are like, yo, this Mr. Within has a point. If we've had an ability to identify with paint on a chunk of land, why haven't we had the ability to identify with what we have seen in the mirror? To be honest, to be human is as divine as anything else spontaneously happening in manifestation. And for me, I've realized that it's an inner realm situation. So I was raised and conditioned by the world to only be a concept shifter. Okay, I'm talking in subjective terms. I'm a concept shifter. That means you shift from one ego to another sense of self, to another sense of self. Like every day you wake up, you feel like you're a new sense of self. That's concept hopping, but you're concept hopping in a fixed context. And that context is like, yeah, I'm existing in a world right now that's existing, right? So right now, human beings are all conditioned to behave a certain way and believe that this certain way is the only way reality is, but it is like one room out of many rooms, right? And so in some sense, they're like, Mr. Within, do you believe in conspiracy theories? I'm like, guys, forget conspiracy theories. There's something deeper and more mysterious going on. Where are we, and why is a known self in an unknown world trying to know this world? What are we all doing here? Why weren't we all born in our own worlds? Why are we all in one world in front of our eyes? Somebody says in the chat section, I feel more intelligent being in your presence. You unlock the spiritual within me. Thanks, man. You know, I'll say this. Um, And I don't know how you've interpreted it in the same way. I don't know. You guys are on one side of the wall, and I'm on this side of the wall. I'll till the end of my days, I may never know how others heard what I said, but I have to accept it. It's part of the job, right? And what is the job? I'm telling you, you're not listening to some dude trying to teach stuff. You're listening to a bewildered soul on earth who has realized everything started from the unknown. We are unknown beings, and because we haven't had the comfort or the maturity as a soul, and they're like, Mr. Within, what do you mean by soul? Soul is the presence of the whole moment experientially. In deep sleep, if you ask me, if I have a soul, you're gonna hear my snores. Do you know what I mean? But in the conscious waking state, you ask me, I'll be like, yo, what do you think is noticing duality when the brain only notices the form as the initial duality? Like form and space, that's it. That means, do you know what I mean? And I'm sorry to say this, but I think everybody has proof of this. The mind has an ability. It's like, think of it this way. The basic thing, this sort of what I'm talking about has been hidden to most people by underneath the concept of daydreaming, but it's more deeper than that. It's like you realizing meaning is a daydream, but you're daydreaming in an unknown place. And it's like, yo, man, the whole species is like a lost kid in a mall, right? For me, let me tell you guys, the world, if somebody says, is reality real? I'll be like, yeah. If somebody says, is reality being kept? I'll be like, yeah. It's being maintained. And we are just using human civilization. We're not advancing human civilization. Somebody in the chat section said they feel like an intelligent presence, you know. Let me tell you this, I call this intelligent interaction levels. Okay, that means I realize what's more like, what are all the wealthiest people doing on earth? They're having a good time. What does that mean? To cultivate experience in the system. And to me, they're like, Mr. Within, how do you see the rich and poor? I'm like, the rich are watching this video of life with higher resolution. And then there are those who are watching it with the lowest resolution. That's it. And it's a system. It's a system all about the cost of time. So they're like, what's the most valuable thing? They're like, oh yeah, it's time. All the billionaires are trying to be immortal and young again. Like, why are they doing that? They've realized, oh my God, I'm rich now. I have $1 billion now. Like, there was this dude that came on this YouTube video and was like this billionaire trying to stay young forever, right? And this guy was, and I was like, man, look at how small their realities are. Right? That in some sense, it's like these billionaires who've succeeded in life, in all areas of life. They're the most healthiest physically. They have the best relationships. They have the best businesses. They have the greatest realities. And at the end of it, something feels incomplete. So it's like we are energy, and you're a certain type of energy in every moment, a different capability, different competence. And I'm telling you, when this world has a system admin, you better be very fascinated that it's not that you just feel an intelligent presence when there's somebody speaking. You are an intelligent being. You are a type of being that first you must find the honor of it. The world may not give it to you. This is very important for all those souls who may be destined to go rogue, to journey in this life rogue. It doesn't matter who you are. You know, the Buddha said you were born alone and you die alone, right? And everything else in between is a blessing. I'm pretty much saying that everybody on Earth, from like in the outer realms, the greatest strategy is everybody, all citizens on Earth, go to their political systems very politely, respectfully, not a single piece of trash on the ground, very disciplined and respectful. Do you know? Everybody, there's protests around the world, very polite, peaceful, and respectful, and also defended and guarded, protests, where these protests are just humans being like, yo, we're tired, and this human species has outgrown the nationalistic era. What transnationalism caused was not just the deepening of the relationships between nations for their survival. Right now, people don't understand. Earth is like an island, and all the world leaders are living on an island. It's Lord of the Flies right now. And people are like, Mr. Within, do you need a PhD in politics? I'm like, no, it's Lord of the Flies. All the egos of the world leaders are stranded on a planet, and they're all fighting over for value based on their own systems of meaning, because the species wasn't mature enough to define a universal system of new human meaning. I call that civilization 2.0. It's pretty much been my life's work. That means anybody who's like listening to these talks, if you're like, okay, we're listening to you, what is your allegiance to? I will tell you, in the inner realms, it is to the original power, to the most advanced original power. The most advanced is beyond conditions, so don't even give it a shape. And in the outer realms, in the most advanced expression of humanity, that means if I am human, in the presence of the Lord of the worlds and all planes, conditional planes of the realm, to all beings in reality, I do not know what all of us are. Do you know? I see the divine source code, but I know the meaning is limited from this side. You're listening to this dude telling you all souls on earth are like lost soldiers, armored in the human, dressed in human, equipped with human armor. Do you know? And you're a member of the human species, and your human species, the human species, is under dehumanized invasion. That means they're like, yo, what do you mean? That means forget this. All these like children put superhero posters on their wall. Do you know? And philosophers are just understand that every attribute the superhero had could have been given to any other character. Like you could legit give all the powers of Superman to a squirrel with an advanced AI chip attached to its brain. Do you know? You could make a hamster like the most intelligent, enlightened being in the universe. You know, it's like this is something writers are very familiar with, not just with that specific analogy, but with the freedom to wonder about how else can the world move. The joy of living life. Let me tell you something fascinating. They're like, yo, man, why is it that there's the divorce rates are high? Do you know why is it that people are forgetting their traditional values and mutating into some sort of like, techno, you know, informationally sculpted kind of like algorithmic entities, And I'm here as some soul calling himself Mr. Within. Why? Because Batman understood. Batman understood. Batman wore a mask, okay? Not because he didn't want to invest in a gigantic defense system in all his buildings. Batman wore a mask and acted as a superior chaos. People don't understand this. Batman evolved through revenge, subconscious revenge, regardless of how much he convinced himself he's a good guy. He's a billionaire. He could have just paid everything, like he could have just rebuilt the Gotham, but he didn't. Why? Because it was personal. Batman is like, yo, how like some dude elevated to the level of art, like, when Batman saw Tony Stark, he's like, all right, man, I'm retiring. Just, Batman's like, bro, I'm just a billionaire who buys advanced technology, and like Tony Stark just discovered a new power source. Batman would probably be like, all right, guys, I'm gonna go back to Gotham. You guys like punch Thanos in the face for me. just Oh man, Batman was just like, deep down, people were like, was he a crying child? like, nah, man, nah. He had confronted his darkness because Batman saw Joker. You don't understand. For Batman, I should start doing reviews on this stuff. You know, Batman saw the Joker. Batman was slowly being introduced to the dehumanized. That's the whole thing about life, right? I'm telling you, all wars are civil wars. You identify with what you see in the mirror. You don't just see you. You see yourself as an intelligent presence of the moment that is responsible for a member of the human species. They're like, yo, man, am I going to the gym for myself to feel good? It's like, no, you're not. Everything you do indirectly is serving the legacy of mankind. And the whole point of it is realizing you don't have to have $1 billion to experience life high quality with higher resolution. You just have to realize if meaning is arising from within, I have only been walking in my own meaning. And this is why when people say my truth and your truth, and I'm like, yo, bro, this is like a little impure, because in some sense, truth is not something like it's a cake, everybody has a piece. Even though we're present as an expression in what is truly everything. But I'm saying it's not about that. That means the role of man was to receive a message. To me, it's as if religion was to like, okay, did I get the message? And if the answer is yes, then you're religious. And the message is the highest value is unconditional. And this unconditional source of this realm, that means in Islamic theology, God commands into existence. God doesn't build like Lego. God commands into existence. That means they're like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I'm like, buddy, what came first? First, space or form? And it's as if you realize, no, they were both, the whole moment was instantaneously commanded. It's like it teleported into a photograph equivalent. And they're doing scientific studies in a world they can't see. Like, they can't completely see. What are we doing? Somebody in the chat section says New Age philosopher here. Mr. Within reminds me of philosophers of the past in the now. It's like, buddy, that like, yeah, thanks, man. But my whole point is like the future. Think of it this way. If I'm saying, if we all acknowledge God as a higher power, do you know? I want you to wonder, what is a higher power than a human archetype? It's not to dehumanize and become a cyborg or become like some sort of like mutated entity. You know, we're trying to immortalize your consciousness. Like, it's like, yo, man, you know, whoever wrote Brain in a Gat that was a prophecy. In the future, everything's become just intelligent program rather than living in the presence of the unknown. Let me tell you what it is. The philosophers of the old, they all knew, just like anybody right now. If anybody just shares what they're seeing, right? Like, think of it this way. Every philosopher knew that the future would see their blind spots. Every philosopher knows this. And the whole point of it is, what is the approach and strategy? For me, I was raised in this world, and not once did anybody come up to me and say, hey, have you wondered what the most advanced version of you would be? Have you wondered what the most advanced version of everybody would be? Have you wondered what the most advanced version of human civilization would be? Have you wondered about the future of your greatness, wherever you see it? So to me, it's as if like inside an unknown moment, knowledge has been commanded already. That means to the system admin, the future has already happened. But to us, the future awaits. And I have asked myself, because I've always been had this vibe since I started these talks, where I was like, okay, if something fascinates me, if I figure out why it fascinates me, then I have discovered the new. It's not that there's just libraries behind our eyes. Every human being, they're like, yo, why are those senior Chinese people doing Tai Chi in the park? Oh yeah, they're acknowledging their consciousness as energy. That means every food they eat, everything they say, every word they say, everything has an energy. They're experiencing level on an energetic level, right? But the human psyche, or let's say in modern human psychology, we're functioning at a level of sophistication of identity. That means it's like weird. It's like if I don't put any effort, it's like I'm being something, but I'm also doing nothing. And it's like 0 in the doing dimension is equivalent to 1 in the being dimension. Like, yo, how advanced is Mr. Within's metaphysics? He's talking about the being dimension and the doing dimension. Guys, no. If you assign any ideas, it's called Mr. Within's inner and outer realmism. Anyways, what is the point? The point is, we've entered a system. We can either, like, just ignore the system, live in our own world, or choose to be like, okay, what unique advantage does it have? What kind of, like, how, like, if let's say you put a, let's say there were like, I don't know, imagine like there was a general, and this general had like 7 sons, okay, of different ages, you know and he to see which out of his 7 sons was a true strategist. Okay, I'm making up this hypothetical story. Okay, and he would, in some sense, see responsibility for the future. The purpose of the think of it this way: the purpose of the past was the present. So what is the purpose of the present? The future. What is the purpose of the future beyond the future? What are the ways beyond the future? From the secular way, it's beyond light, the speed of light. From the religious way, it's through God's mercy, the system admin's authorization. I'm just saying that we're a bunch of unknown beings in an unknown world. Our ancestors, in a humorous way, they just opened their eyes and they're like, whoa, this is all like some random stuff we're seeing. And they're like, all right, guys, we freaked out. And the way we retaliated as a strategy to freaking out was to tell ourselves a story. So in the middle of an unknown world as unknown beings, suddenly everybody had a name. We codified ourselves, and we managed through that codification share meaning. Human intelligence is very fascinating. I'm telling you, somebody said the term New Age in the chat section. Like, anybody who has a New Age mentality, do you know what I mean? It's just like, that's everything. Every story, only singular stories are like child's play. And when you realize the destiny of the species has to do with the destiny of 8.1 billion decisions. That is the fate of the world. The microphone is thrown to every person in the world. They're like, whoa, I'm not a leader. I wasn't selected. It's like, no. Your world is now saying, before nationalism destroys the world, let speciesism truly emerge. Let us unite as a species. Therefore, we can allocate resources without destroying ourselves. We are a species from the beginning until the end. We are a species. And why is that the slogan? Because there is an important need at this time to defend the original natural human experience. That means I'm like, okay, like, how weird has it been? Politics has been based on greed. What a futile value. Politics should have been built, on honesty. And what does that mean? Access to original information. To access the original information is legit like I'm a simulation telling you as a simulation, yo, all of us as simulations need to find the original Earth. To be responsible for past, present, future, and to realize the awareness of all three is the hidden agency. You have wondered what you are. Just a mechanism, and it's bizarre because the self and the world, there only requires some divine intervening higher dimensional power that can keep those separate. I'm speaking to a species that right now they're like, oh my God, Mr.Within was born in 2020, not born in 2026, he was alive in 2026, telling the species to, in some sense, like, yo, unite as a species. And first we do this on an inner level. Do you understand? It's the new role. That means when you wake up, you don't think about like, what should I do to advance myself? You think about, what should I do to advance a member of the species? And as a member of the species, you realize to advance, it's like the only way you can know how truly advanced you are is if everybody is advanced and it's in the most advanced world. This is the law of advancement, Mr. Within's law of advancement, but in reality, just the law of advancement. It means advancement is a strange and, to me, a holy word. It was the word that I could put in front of everything, and the most advanced outcome would be found. Advanced law of advancement means everything advances. They're like, yo, man, the world is changing. And I'm like, I know, when we become conscious of it, we advance. To me, it's not about like figuring out anymore like what we actually are, what the soul is. All the mysteries, the minor mysteries have kind of subsided, and right now the major mystery stands. What is the most advanced strategy? And for a second I was like, yo, man, don't get distracted by human body, just human physical form, in regards to they're young, they're old, they're in some sense, let's say whatever age they are, do you know what I mean? And you have to treat them in a certain way. Of course you have to, in civilization 1.0, but my mind was not in a chaotic way thinking this. I was thinking of it this way: yo, man, what is beyond all these human archetypes and archetypal conditions? That means there is a reason they call it the human condition. And I'm like, yo, you were fascinated by what I'm saying. Wait until you realize you're an unknown being. And this means that meaning really has to do with the furthest reaches of your awareness and being responsible for that awareness. There, you know? And people can be like, Mr. Within, how can you as an unknown being be bored in an unknown world? I am bored of not seeing the human potential activate. It's as if they're like, it's like I'm born as a human. I'm like, all right, greatest strategy. Okay, what's the species doing? The species is everybody's in their own world. So I'm like, okay, we need an advanced great human strategy. Okay, and the great human strategy is like it's like the new era in modernity, where the era of legends are arising. But this is not the legends. It means that, think of it this way: it's like a sine wave. There's eras in history where fiction and non-fiction are completely separated, and then there's eras in history where they start becoming transparent. Okay, and what does this mean? That means we're living in a realm where inventors are bringing what is behind their eyes in front of their eyes, right? And everything we see in front of our eyes translates or is given meaning to from behind our eyes, from what comes from within us. When I say within, that means just look at the presence you are. Like they're like, yo, man, teach me how to get enlightened. I'm like, that's the weirdest question. It's like, how you have a DNA, you have eyes, you exist in a moment in a space-time continuum that I don't, and you want me to enlighten you. Ask yourself why there's light in your eyes. Because true identity is really what this deep down, they're like, yo, man, what is everybody trying to do? What does every soul want? And one answer is like, every soul wants to belong. But belong to what? To the truth. But what is the truth? The original. What is the original? Unconditional faith in the unknown, as the unknown, simplicity of presence prior to any subject or any objective position, just limiting the realm. I am asking you, oh unknown soul, oh unknown being in an unknown world, wonder about how the organization is there and how everything we know is specific, yo. We're too specifically designed. They're like, why do you talk so much? It's like, why do we have mouths and ears? Human beings are like this presence of a moment that is aware of like, it's like a portal. It's like a walking portal. Behind our eyes, it's like reality is subjectively malleable. In front of our eyes, it's objectively fixed. And it's like, the person's like, why can't I sit in, why can't I open the door of the Bugatti I visualize? It's like, yeah, because if we don't, as a species, organize and be able to discriminate between the inner realms and the outer realms, and this is where the theories arise. Okay, so the inner realms and the outer realms is the greatest modern discovery. It's the thing that organizes everything. So right now, imagine right now, like I'm on Earth, okay, and I'm just giving a talk online, okay, and I'm sharing this idea of, in the middle of of ethics being based locally due to the specific cultural program of where that human being was born. Truly wonder about the presence of being. The mystery surpasses any sort of outer realm. That means it's like, yo, it's like, even if somebody comes up to me and it's like, yo, what is truth? I'm like, buddy, I'm a simulation. You're in a simulation. How you see me is the way you're simulating it. How I see you is the way I'm simulating it. The presence of the moment can have countless viewpoints to it. We are in the presence of such a vast, majestic, unknown occurrence that what is divinity but just reality occurring? Consciousness is unique. That means, again, I'll repeat this, in the same way we can't explain what's outside of existence just based on what's in existence. We cannot explain what we are just limited to what we experience. And they're like, Mr. Within, what are you saying? I'm like, yo, I'm saying to to human history, it is time for the species to become responsible for its unknown life. That means everything you know is present in meaning. Just look at something, and if I ask you what that is, if you have a name or word for it, it's like that's personal meaning. So you have to realize you're in this. To have a soul is to be a sort of unknown force in the spotlight of an energetic presence of being. Like in a moment, it's as if, like, I don't know how to tell you guys, even though like my eyesight, biological sight starts from my eyes, and my inner realms is happening in like this invisible overlay upon the realm, right? But I'm saying what is actually here is deeper than the human idea. And so I've realized that being human is a sort of phase in history, and based on how reckless we are now, or how conscious we are now, the future generations will have a greater quality of life. There was this show called Shingeki no Kyojin, this comic book series made into like an anime. And in it, there was this fictional character, just to tell you that even fictional characters can inspire you. There was this commander named Erwin Smith, and there was this very chaotic scene in the show where this commander and all the soldiers, and they were like the last stand of humanity in a sense, right? And they were all like running towards their deaths. And one soldier who's like smarter than the rest, but is in a hysteria, and he's like, so we're all gonna go die right now? And then and like something like this he says, right? I don't remember the exact thing he says, but he says like, yo, so does this mean that we're all gonna die right now? And does this mean that life is meaningless? And does this mean there was no point to any of this? And then the commander in some says yes to all the others except says, if I remember correctly, he says he says yes, it's like we're all gonna die right now. Yes, all the dreams and aspirations and visions or whatever, something like that. He says you've had, all of them are gonna end. But if is life meaningless, is what we're doing meaningless? He says no. And he says we live for those who will find the meaning one day. Now, in my mind, in the Mr. Withinian view, I see it, we live for those, we advance for those who will advance. We live for those who, in some sense, will advance. I'm living for the advanced potential of the realm. You all have to make a decision like at some point where your attention centers its ultimate value. Do you know? To me, it's not just objects moving around as humans. It's like these are intelligent beings with intelligent internal realities and software, like intelligent inner access to to their own intelligent private inner server. And the moment I heard, my mind just fathomed what the most advanced human civilization in the whole cosmic sector would be. I realized the most advanced civilization requires to be built by the most advanced power. The most advanced power is beyond the world room because the world seems to have a simulated nature. So the higher power must choose to build the advanced civilization. That means I'm like, yo, why am I not getting viewers? And I'm like, no, that's not it. It's the higher power. There's a reason. Not all ideas require to be heard, maybe. I'm saying, like, yo, if we didn't have minds, like, I'll give you, like I say this example, right? Like, I can imagine a flying car, but they're not commercialized and they don't exist. Like, you can't buy them, right? So there is no flying cars now. But why is it that I'm living in 2026 and I can imagine flying cars? I can imagine, like, looking at the sky outside of a balcony and seeing like a line of cars in the sky, do you know? And I'm like, how hilarious, sky traffic, you know? It's about, like, they're like, okay, what do we do after we're honest in this world? We wait. In my inner realms, just like I can see a flying car, I can see an advanced civilization. I ask myself, why does my consciousness have access to probabilities of the future of the human species? I ask this for myself. And then I realize it's just species level consciousness. And one day everybody on Earth is going to be like with the way I'm thinking is going to be normal. I'm going to be in the common and the rest are going to be in wherever. But it's fascinating. It's an advanced civilization. It's like the advanced potential of civilization exists. It's like, wait a minute, if I can imagine, like, if you imagine somebody lived on a farm, let's say a hypothetical context, somebody lived on a farm and they could imagine every morning a rooster would like make noise. So you can like go to sleep and you already know something about the future. You know how something in the future can happen. And this is why they did the most terrible marketing job for discipline. Discipline means like not just planning for the future. Discipline means you are trying to see if your prediction of tomorrow is accurate. Anyways, folks, thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, and the most advanced, in honor of the original unconditional moment of being, that all conditional moments of being have arisen from and will return to, in honor of the original system admin of reality, we are in the presence of the higher power. That was the great discovery. I realized that, oh yeah, the higher power, like, it's not that man is collaborating with God. The world is functioning under divine command. The soul has been, it's strange. It's like, some people, I don't know how other people see it, but to me, it's like we don't come empty like a blank slate here. It's as if our soul was a way like the system admin commanded us into as a user in the system. But there's something very unique about man. We have system admin privileges. That means this is the difference between the human species and imagine like other species. Other species, they just have to rely on their beastly nature. But the human species is different. The human species, whenever things become scary, whenever life is no longer in one's egotistical control, right? That's when, in some sense, the person's like, okay, like in emergencies or whatnot, when a situation is beyond their ability to like ensure, right? It's as if in that moment, it's as if like the soul just looks at the moment, the universe, the whole reality, the whole cosmos, and just says, help, advance the human species. What greater advancement? A species that is not just reliant on its beastly nature to be tamed through robotic ideology. To truly be advanced in an advanced world, which means every day, every moment you have to ask yourself, like, what would the most advanced version of you deserve? What would the most advanced version of your family deserve? What would the most advanced version of your nation deserve? What would the most advanced version of your species deserve? What would the most advanced version of Earthkind deserve? After mankind has been restored, in some sense, the kingdoms of mankind have been restored, all in some sense serving no living king, but the crown is worn by the unborn future generations. They're like, yo, human beings, you guys are living in a sort of kingdom, a system, but you don't have a living king, and we'll be like, no, we live for the advanced potential of the future generations, commanded by the greater vision of the potential of this whole species happening. That means wake up from your individual life, and I don't care how old you are, but at some point, like, let's say hopefully beyond the midpoint of your life, you wake up to this reality and you begin to see, like, yo man, have I been just living in my own story of being some like unique person that only I can see in a sort of nationalistic, subjective framework to a certain chunk of land, just because my house has to be connected to the earth? Does that mean my mind has to be connected to the earth? Or does that mean that we are an ability to realize that before we even could, like, people are like, we've forgotten how civilization was born. If they ask me right now how was civilization born, I can answer that. And do you believe I'm still not married? No, The idea is simple. The present is not managed by reacting or consciously responding to the present. The present is handled by being responsible for the future. In reality, what is happening, I don't care how many people debate this, our sense of self and the meaning we give to life is a fictional inner process. And what we give this meaning to in the outer life is a non-fictional form in a place. Now, just like the chicken or the egg, who knows, like if all of this space is in a room or all these rooms are in a bigger space, who knows? Do you know? They're like, yo, man, am I a body, or am I physical or am I non-physical? And I'm like, buddy, it's a sine wave. Like, it's a wave. You can choose to be whatever you want. It's like, yo, you want me to tell you how advanced my spirituality is? Sometimes in the morning I wake up, I'm already in a meditative state. When I drink a cup of coffee, it's like a sort of Renaissance Western enlightenment. When I give these lectures, I am in some sense pausing the whole story of life and the simulation and just walking into being in the presence of all of it and asking myself, yo, man, should you sacrifice your honesty for joy, for the joy of the people? Or should you in some sense ask yourself, like I had to ask this as a speaker, because I was like, yo, what if I listen to my own lectures in the future? So I had to really know, because my criticism of my own lectures is on another level, I think, regardless of how many people can criticize my lectures. To me, it is about the system is looping in known common ways, and we need to point out the unknown and uncommon. Like, I understand information. Do you know what it is? It's like, imagine information was like food in a giant bucket, and the species ran to consume it and they all fell in the bucket. I'm like, yeah, guys, you weren't that hungry. And the whole point of it is we maintain our humanity as we build a civilization. And I was like, okay, what does the species do with the dehumanized? At first, I was kind of like, made me a bit be like, okay. But then I realized, no, the whole notion of the advanced civilization is that the advanced civilization is only advanced if it is being built in the presence of the most advanced power. That means it's kind of strange. I'm saying, like, in the same way that God conscious people are different than just your average Joe. Such a strange statement to say. What being God conscious means is that there is something original within you that has noticed something original within the whole moment. And so it is about how do we manage our simulated nature. And people think divinity means they get power. No, divinity is very different. If somebody's like Mr. Within, what's the difference between like how a magician experiences destiny, or how a divine person experiences destiny, these two archetypes? I would say the magician is bound to itself. It thinks it is the most powerful. That's the problem of the magician. Power is something that should not be claimed because its roots are unseen. It's in the jurisdiction of the system admin. Power is something that it's very strange. It's like how they're like, yo, maybe an updated version. I don't know how to say this. From simplicity, the complexity can be reviewed. What are we here truly? Like, what is going on here? Why are we intelligent beings? Why are we this unknown life force moving this known life form? And the communication of it is understandable. These are all like servers, patterns. It's like right now, how do I say it? It's like inner systems of like from the biological body systems, all of them maintaining me, and then me trying to function in this civilizational system as an idea, you know. And deep down we're like, yo man, it just takes a lot of energy to just be human. What does that mean? Because we're in a changing world. The depth of reality surpasses just our beliefs, you know. And let me say, it's not that beliefs are wrong, it's that there can be beliefs in a world that is self-simulated, and there could be epistemological beliefs and ontological beliefs. The ontological beliefs are the important find. That means what I hope for the viewers to be really inspired by when they hear these lectures is that I'm telling you, guys, it's not about people worship, okay? It's not about event worship. People worship means even worshiping yourself. Being obsessed with yourself is a type of people worship, okay? Even thinking you're right and putting others down and thinking you're bringing justice to them, that's a sort of people worship too, you know. Pretty much when we're in the presence of the higher power, we realize all religious wars have been sin. But they have been sin that's perhaps forgiven. But I don't know. I don't want to go into this sector of speech, but I would say this. To me, there is an advanced power in this world. We have all had, based on the days we've been alive here, interacted with it. It is the life of the world, experienced through the self. You identify as the self to realize you are the intelligent field where you find your body in. You find the world here. It's like experientially, we exist first, then the world. Existentially, the world exists, then we exist. And I'm realizing that it's like we need incredible strategists. We need, and you know what activates an incredible strategist? Advanced purpose. That means all that I'm saying is seek the most advanced state, and you will realize solving the species' problems is the great act. Do you know what that means? That means there's like, life is very strange, but to me, I started seeing it as every human as a member of the human species. Do you know, we represent it, guys. All of us that are alive. We're just like I'm live streaming this lecture. We are the live stream of history. Out of the 117 billion humans considered to exist in the last 300,000 years of civilization, we are like 7% of all human existence is still existing. We are still the ancient ones. I don't care if it's even like the modern generations who forget their ancestors. They are still ancient. Why? Because it's not just the DNA. It is in some sense, the moment you see how many contexts there can be, meaning cannot be conceptualized anymore. That means the moment you see that you could look at someone in a good way, in a bad way, in a right way, in a wrong way, in all the different ways possible, in a sad way, in a happy way, in whatever way, then you realize that it's not the person. The soul is so mysterious that we cannot even attribute in nature. Divinity means that if the magician and let's say the diviner, or let's say the divine character, right, and the let's say the selfless divine character and the egotistical evil character battled it out, okay, in some hypothetical narrative, you will see that the divine archetype is the archetype of unconditional, of like actually pure faith. So the divine do not live in a world that has failed. That means, like, all of you have had the ability to like consider that all of us are all here and we're experiencing human existence. Is it that far-fetched to consider that we're all like just in the same way we look at ants, right? Like we're a higher intelligence looking at that lower intelligence. The ants can't fathom who we are, but they may feel us watching them. And the human species is similar. Like forget all the man-made, man-forced institutional interpretations of reality, and for a second ask yourself, what was the true mystery of being alive here? And to me, I'm like, okay, what is the greatest strategy to the natural world? And in Civilization 2.0, I had this strategy of taking all civilizational activity, but this was in like 2,000 years or very far in the future, I envisioned it. Anyways, folks, I'm just saying that even though we're unknown selves in an unknown world and we experience reality simulated in different conditional ways, there is the presence of the unconditional, because where can the conditional be? That means if somebody says, where was the birthplace of the world? Which is an incredible question. I'm just happy to have said it. The birthplace of the world was an original unconditional moment. That means the opposite of failure, the opposite of chaos just being true. It was the realization that before chaos, before any condition, it's an original state. So to me, when they're like, yo, how deep are you? And I'll be like, you really want to know? It's as deep as wondering if all of our souls are simulations of an original moment soul, and if all that is going on is just a simulation of from an original presence of state, a state of presence. So to be divine means to access the higher planes, to access the higher planes as a pilot of consciousness that human beings are, right? We navigate through the higher planes by realizing as the ratio of unknownness increases, in the unseen is in the jurisdiction of the original power. In the same way it's important to get along with humans, it's also important as a conscious living agency in this realm to wonder about how you have classified all the ways that ideas have in some sense come and replaced objects for you in your experience. What is the true meaning of it? You understand the why? Is the unknown just privatized to special people, or is the unknown been there all the time? It's like, yo, bro, everybody, everything they've told me, it's in an unknown world, man. They're fighting over who considers what an unknown changing world's true portrait is. The moment I said this, the viewers left. I'm like, yeah, right. I'll grant that. Anyways, folks, the whole point of it was the proof of the soul is that the body is not reacting to a personality, the body is treating visualization equivalent to physical reality, which means the body doesn't have a mind. Excuse me, that's a very wrong statement. It's not that the body doesn't have a mind. The body does have a mind. It's that the body doesn't have a personality. The body doesn't care. The body doesn't care if it's a physical, fictional, non-fictional thing, or if it's a, if it's an objective, non-fictional thing, or if it's a subjective, fictional, non-thing. A round of applause for me getting through that sentence, I'm saying there's 8.1 billion humans with unique DNAs in an unknown world, which means we're all unique access points to the realm. Now we need to unite the value it finds. That means every soul on earth is finding the greatest strategy for themselves. And I'm like, okay, yourself is going to exist in a world, right? So we need to find the greatest strategy for the world. Anyways, folks, thank you for listening. In 35 minutes, there's going to be a Discord event. And feel free to join. And thank you for listening. The proof of the soul is that the body can't tell duality apart. The body just responds to the basic, or maybe the only basic duality of form. So the body is the brain is reacting to shapes, but what is giving meaning to that shape is not from the brain. And then the question is, where is it from? I'm saying it's the whole moment being intelligent. And I feel I have landed the plane well. Thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, and the most advanced.